For my discussion regarding power and its role in conflict, I will be referring to the conflict that I previously addressed in Lesson 2 regarding an ex-partner of mine, Mark. Again, the name has been changed. You may recall that a conflict arose upon what I considered an inappropriate relationship between Mark and my friend at the time, Rebecca. I engaged in accommodating and avoidant behavior, that is, either putting the needs of the other parties above my own, or addressing the issues that made me uncomfortable just so to keep the peace. Finally, following a private interaction between Mark and Rebecca and the discovery of a personal photo sent to him by her, I engaged in an aggressive and competing confrontation with Mark by commanding of him in an emotionally volatile manner to, quote, tell me that this is inappropriate behavior while being in a relationship with me. He did not comply to my demands and deflected the topic, stating that I was, quote, getting upset over nothing and, quote, reading too much into something that doesn't exist. My repeated insistence of him giving me the answer that I wanted to hear, that is, yes, this is inappropriate behavior that I engaged in, led him to react in a startling and severe way, as he grabbed a loaded 9mm pistol, posed the weapon up to his temple, and then placed the finger inside the trigger well. I accommodated his demand by dropping the issue, slowly backing out of his personal space, and never ever bringing up the subject. He then put down the weapon and he left the space, and I packed an overnight bag and I stayed at a friend's house to avoid another altercation like this one. The beginning of the conflict starts with a confrontation by me to define the scope of the relationship by determining appropriate societal boundaries within the context of our romantic relationship. The purpose of my confrontation was to define the scope of our relationship. By confronting him in this aggressive manner, by raising my voice and using accusatory language, I sent a relational message to him that it was within the bounds of our interpersonal relationship. To define relational messages are verbal expressions that indicate how people regard each other in a relationship. So while I interpreted his actions as a violation of trust and detrimental to our relationship, he states outright that the matter is trivial and for me to, quote, drop it. I was not successful in conveying relational control, and instead the other party reiterated repeatedly that he did not believe that his behavior warranted my response. He redefined the relationship by directly and virtually displaying his resource, establishing himself as the more powerful party. He controlled the issue at hand by suppressing the conflict and by instilling fear of raising the issue again. Each of us as parties varied slightly in our social categories. He is a white middle-class Army veteran male, which implies an honorable societal status, albeit a common one since we live in a town that's populated by a lot of the same demographic. I live just outside of an Army base. Soldiers are understood to possess a special set of skills regarding fitness, combat, and mental endurance. And they also recently come with a stigmatism that based on the things that they experience, that they are kind of more easily triggered to respond in more extreme ways, given the surroundings and environments that they've been in, war zones and combat zones. They also have literal rankings to show the command of power and authority to others in a group. For instance, if I were a soldier instead of a romantic partner of a lesser rank, or instead of just a civilian, he could easily have resolved any conflict by commanding of me to drop the matter completely. However, I don't endorse that resource because as a civilian, his ranking means nothing to me. I'm my own free agent and I don't have to obey his request based on his rank or status. However, as a white young professional civilian woman, his threat towards his life and of mine put me in a position to submit immediately because at the time I literally did not wield the same resource he had, nor did I possess the skills to disarm him. And so now I'd like to explore the resource that he used to exert the power. The resource is anything that can be used by a party to change the course of action of a conflict in pursuit of his own goals. Resources can range from skill sets to expertise to control, and are only valuable when the other party endorses the resource. And that's according to our text with Clegg in 1989, as well as Jewell and Riots in 1981. And as I previously mentioned, the gun was the resource of power. And so to me, there was no way for me to, I very much endorsed the power of it given, you know, how our gun culture, our society, also having personal experience with them. It elevated the status of it, and it made me take his threats very seriously. So that is my discussion regarding power and conflict. Thank you.